Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melody, Enrollment and Operations Coordinator at Summit Education. Summit is supporting Stay Inspired interview series starting from October 2020, and we are excited to see how they really inspire the industry. Summit Education is a unique education group specialized in hospitality management and the culinary arts. Its hospitality management institutions, Lyon and La Roche, with campuses in Switzerland, Spain, China, and the UK, provide undergraduate and graduate students from more than 100 countries. I'm so glad to see many industry experts, as well as Lyon and La Roche alumni, even professor here today. And thank you, Inspire Hospitality and JLL, for making this event happen. Now, please join me to welcome Elizabeth, CEO and founder of Inspire Hospitality.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you to all of you for coming today, considering the circumstances. It's our pleasure to have you here. We want to make this very much worth your time. The topic of sustainability is one of these very vague topics. We say sustainability, and what does that mean really? And how does it apply to our industry? Now, just yesterday we were preparing for today, and we had a student who says, Miss Elizabeth, this is the first time I hear about these topics. And I think the joy of the speakers that were with us yesterday, practicing, rehearsing for today, we were just shocked by that. We were shocked by that. Because these hospitality students that are currently going through their curriculum, for many of them, they are not aware of just how we're bringing sustainable initiatives into our day-to-day operations and into our industry. This reminds me even more why it's so important to host these kinds of learning forums so that we can help to generate and to develop the next generation of hoteliers. Now here in China we're quite fortunate because, as you all know, the central government has made it a priority to make China a carbon neutral country by the year 2060. But then how do we do that? How does this initiative apply to hospitality? Today we're going to think about that, and we're going to learn about that in three key components. One, the actual building, the structure of a hotel. Two, we're going to talk about how multinational brands are now creating sustainability initiatives for their guests and guest-facing dynamic. And three, you're going to meet and learn from some of the innovators and entrepreneurs already making solutions for hotel daily operations. So I'm very excited to be able to welcome and to introduce all of you today to our first group of speakers. Please join me to welcome Ms. Vicky Chun. She's the Operations Director for Energy and Sustainable Services Greater China for JLL. Welcome. I'd like to welcome Mr. Brown Xu. He is the Head of Market Transformation and Development for China for U.S. Green Building Council, also known as USGBC. Welcome, Brown. And last but not least, please allow me to welcome Ms. Jillian Yao. She is the Executive Director of Brands for Accor Greater China. Welcome. And Vicky, I must say thank you to JLL for being our host for this event.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming to our office.
For those of you that don't know, JLL, this building in particular, is a Platinum LEED building, which means that they are one of the most sustainable buildings operating here in China. And Brown's going to tell us a little bit more about that as well. But first, what I'd like to do is I'd like for each of you to just please introduce yourselves, your role, your work, and just a brief summary of the sustainability initiatives that you're doing. And Jillian, I thought we could start with you.
So my name is Jillian Yo. I take care of all our brands at Accor for the Greater China region. Sustainability is a huge topic in our company, so not just from a sort of CSR departmental perspective, and that's why I'm sort of here in the perspective of brands, So all our brands have a view of how do we make sustainability part of our guest experience. And today I think we're going to share a little bit of what we've been doing and hopefully get some great questions and discussion going.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Rong Xu, and I'm responsible for market development of LEED certification in China, because LEED is created by USGBC, provide a framework of green building. So my duty is to engage more stakeholders to implement the LEED in their building industry. Thank you.
And as Elizabeth introduced already, I'm Vicky. I'm leading the energy and sustainability team in China. We are a regional business focusing on energy efficiency and also the workplace health, well-being. We provide not only LEED WELL certification, that type of service, but also for energy efficiency solutions, sustainability framework, carbon reduction, etc. So yeah, really pleased to have time to have more discussions with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. And actually, you started as an architect designer,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So can you just kind of explain, when you're thinking about creating a sustainable building, what's the difference from the design side to the actual engineering side and the consulting side?
Yeah, of course, I start my first degree as an architect, focusing on architecture design. So at first I'm really into to provide a really good looking or unique form for the buildings. But then I realized what's really important is how comfortable you live in the place or when you use the actually the building. That's why I moved my career to be a mechanical engineer, a facade engineer. And after 14 years with the design consultant firm, I feel the real sustainability is also about your daily operation. So yeah, that's how I come to my career, and hopefully I could share more stories and more case studies with you guys.
Well, I'd like to know what building inspires you, because you work in the interface with a lot of different clients. Some of them are hotel owners, some of them are malls and retail. What is a building that inspires you from a sustainability perspective?
Yeah, I will still use this as an example, maybe because that's the place I start to move my career to a sustainability consultant. That's a building in Sydney. It's a land lease headquarters just in the rocks. I'm not sure anyone been visit that building before, but if you don't, I really recommend that one. So that's the building when we talk about passive design, active design, which provided a really optimized design solution to build right next to the rock. Therefore, you will be able to use the natural rock heat storage effect to reduce your heating or cooling loads.
So the building is actually built into the rocks or next to the
Next
rocks.
to the rock.
And the rocks are kind of absorbing.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I actually had a photo, but yeah, it's really good looking, and also it has its real function to the whole place.
Great. Now, Ron, the US GBC, this is a non-profit organization. The LEED certification, as most of us might know it in the industry, it's a non-profit. What is the mission, which is totally different from a consultancy, right, when you think about your business model? What is the mission of the US GBC?
Okay, I will tell the beginning story of USGBC.
Okay.
Okay, actually in 1993, the President Bill Clinton wanted to launch a mission called Greenhouse, because he thought if White House can be more energy efficiency and become more sustainable, that can inspire all people in the United States to achieve the target of green building. So at that time, he called DOE, Department of Energy, and asked the people, do you know how to make it happen? They have no clue, because at that time, no one knows what is green building. And if you define a green building, so how can you achieve it? So then DOE grabs a lot of professionals from AIA, from NRDC, from a lot of building industry professionals, and they really made how how to say, make a plan and make it happen. So at that year, Earth Day, Bill Clinton announced that greenhouse campaign was successful, and he hoped everyone in the United States can make their home, their office, their factory more sustainable, like White House. So those people, they are thinking, if they gather together and form an organization to implement the spirit of that campaign, that can inspire more people. So that's the, the story of UITBC. So our mission is want to transform the building industry, become more environmentally friendly, healthy, and socially responsible. And the LEED is a tool that we create to help us to answer the question I mentioned. So we define what is green building, and we want to tell people how you can achieve that target.
These buildings, these hotels, they're open 24 hours a day. They have thousands of people coming in and out of them. And I'd like to know, if I were a hotel owner and I decide I'd like to make it an Accor hotel, let's say I want to make it an Accor hotel, but I want it to be sustainable. At what point are you involved, Jillian, from the branding perspective to kind of discuss that with the potential owner or with the corporate team?
Yeah, so from even before they sign on, they need to know as an Accor group, there are certain criteria that they need to adhere to get certified, a bronze certification from us. So it ranges everything from plastic use to food waste to brand programs where we build trees. So every brand has their own different unique flavor on it, but and things that they care about. But it's very much part of our DNA as a group, and so even from the point that they sign, owners start to understand that they need to have these sustainability initiatives in their mind. And then when it comes to actually implementing and building and designing their hotel, maybe not as technical, as all of that. From our perspective, it's really from a guest facing. What do the guests see in their rooms, in their guest rooms? And the biggest thing for us this year, at least, is about plastic free. And making sure we definitely reduce our plastic. We've got a big commitment as a group to have no guest-facing plastic by the end of 2022. So this year was a big push for us to at least get all the bathroom amenities out with the plastic and into plastic-free dispensers.
Okay, we're going to talk about that because it's a very ambitious goal, and especially with the moves that are being made by the Shanghai government, as we all know. How does that really happen in the hotel? So we're going to come back to that. But before we do, I'd like to pretend I was a hotel owner, okay? And I call JLL and I say, Vicki, I'd like to be, I want my hotel, and I'm going to build a hotel, I want my hotel to be eco-friendly, sustainable. What are the things that I need to consider as a hotel owner before we even start construction or design?
I believe nowadays the whole industry is being really educated and has the mindset of sustainability. So every building owner will have that. Well, of course, they have the hotel brands requirements of sustainability, green building. They will also have the government requirements. For example, the Green Star, the LEED certification, those technical requirements when they do the design and construction. But more add-on to that, the later operation requirements become more and more important for the building owners.
Do you think there's a gap between the design and operations?
Definitely. That's the, well, most of the case, the design team, the construction team, and operation team will be totally three different group of people.
Okay.
Of course, they have a certain overlap. They have handover. They have document passed from one party to the other.
They pass the blueprints and they say the things you should do, but typically maybe doesn't happen as
and also due to the sort of your work scopes difference. Most of the case, the operation team will not fully understand the design intention or follow all the construction documents, the operation requirements. So we do see a huge gap between the construction and the daily operation.
I can imagine. And Brown, when would an owner approach you? At what stage in the process of building a hotel would they approach you to ensure that they have a LEED certification?
Oh, we think it is better to engage LEED in their design phase. Because I want to share a little bit of the background. The whole building industry has consumed 40% energy in the world and also created for almost 40% carbon emission. And while everyone spends 9% of his life in the building, so actually when a client wants to pursue LEED certification, he has to know he is making a trade-off. A trade-off is between the demand and the consumption. So he can, really design a luxury hotel with high-end service, but while he needs to be aware that he needs to take more responsibility. Because when we make the rating system, we consider the special space type in the building industry. Because when you compare office building to hotel, that's not reasonable because the operation schedule is different. So we really have to change the standard for hotel. But if you're a luxury hotel, if you want to achieve a higher LEED certification level, you need to take more responsibility than the economy hotel. So it is better to engage LEED concept in the design phase. Then you can lead the whole process smoothly to implement the final result.
So, and I can also see that as being something that would be valuable for an owner, right, and add value, especially from a marketing standpoint. Jillian, when you, as a brand leader at Accor, when you're developing these concepts, and I'm sure it has a marketing value for your brand as well, but what are the steps that you take as a corporate leader to give the tools to the operations team to bring it to life?
Bring a sustainable solution to life? We actually piloted our solution with one of our hotels, Sofitel Hotel, and it was a learning process for both of us. We sort of supported in telling them what the solution was like, why it was sustainable, why it was safe. Safety and sanitary conditions were very important, and gave them all the tools and training. And I think from the GM and the owner's perspective, they also had to see that the solution was also beautiful. It wouldn't sort of make their hotel look any different. It would complement their decor. So getting everybody comfortable with the solution was a big part of it. And then starting small and slow and getting guest feedback and sort of holding each other's hand along the way was very important.
What was the biggest challenge for you dealing with the operations team? If looking back on that experience, because this was a recent implementation, and I think for us in operations, we're always like, oh, another initiative from corporate. Like we're just like, oh, okay, check the box, right? And I'd like to know, and I think the audience would like to know, what was a challenge that maybe you can give us an example of a challenge you faced, and how did that get overcome?
Yeah, I think a very big challenge was people love those little small bottles. They take them home of amenities. They love trying different brands. And one of the big challenges was our guests won't be able to take those back anymore. We're going to get complaints, or people might not like, or it might be perceived not as very luxurious. So we sort of compromised and said, okay, let's do with 5 rooms first, get some guest feedback, which was thankfully overwhelmingly positive. And I think it was also good to start small because a lot of time and effort and customer care, guest care was given to explaining to each guest staying in those rooms, these are our new dispensers, it's tamper-proof, it's still the same beautiful lava.
How did you explain that to the guests? Was that written, something in the room, or did you train the staff on having the conversation? Did you train the housekeepers?
We trained, yes, we trained housekeepers, we trained the guest experience staff, and it was not us sort of giving them the script, it was, here are the questions we might ask. What else would they ask? And it's sort of a collaborative process of coming up with the questions and answers. And sometimes they told us, oh, those answers won't work. It's too, it's too theoretical. They're not going to care about,
It's too corporate.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to care about
realistic to implement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was a lot of listening, and it was nice to start slow and kind of have that luxury of a little bit of time and test and learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine that's a challenge. And why Sofitel? Why is it that brand that's being launched for China?
I think to do something like this, and as I was telling some of the participants, it was really inventing something that wasn't already there. Doing something plastic-free, not going for those big plastic dispensers was something nobody had actually really done before. So we picked Sofitel, we landed on Sofitel because we had great partners to work with. With Lanvin, with Mingfei, our distributor, and honestly Sofitel is our brand that's close to our heart. We're a French brand, we're a French company, so it made sense. It's also one of our bigger networks. So on all fronts, partners, the brand presence, it represented a good start for us.
Thank you. And that is an existing hotel, correct? It was not a new build.
No.
Not a new build. So my dear engineers that we have sitting here, if I were the hotel owner of a hotel that was already open for 10 years or 15 years, and I want to become more sustainable, what do I need to do? What do I need to consider first?
Actually, we just had that topic today. Again, we discussed yesterday. We didn't really prepared before the discussion, but we had the exactly same answer. We will say we need to do commissioning energy audit regularly.
Pause. What does commissioning mean? What is an audit? It's commissioning audit. What does that mean?
Commissioning means that you need to do the equipment testing and inspection. And energy audit means you maybe 2 years or 3 years. You need to check your equipment whether it is run at an efficiency level.
Okay, so we are talking about HVAC system, air conditioning. What are we talking
Not only HVAC, it's including the envelope, the facades, the windows, the doors, the air tightness.
That's the first time I heard a building say the envelope of the building. This is the outside, the windows, the walls. Okay.
And of course the air conditioning system, even the furniture, your carpet and everything. So I'll put it that way, like a human being, we need to do physical checkup once a year. I guess most people do. And your buildings, your facilities need to do exactly the same thing. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you any picture, but we do have loads of samples. There's some existing hotels in Japan. When we do the inspection, we realize actually the steam pipe doesn't have any insulation. That's a thick cover, so you will prevent the heat leaking from your pipes. So from your daily operation, your on-site team employees might not realize those things. They just really be busy keep the daily operation.
Right.
But those things will eventually cause you a huge energy bill.
It's an expense for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And you are a mechanical engineer. Brown is an environmental engineer. But when we have an engineer in the hotel, that's a technician. That is someone who does not have the same expertise that you both would have. What other things should we be teaching and training our engineers in the hotel to look at?
Yep, I would say that beside the technical issues we mentioned, that's very important. But one principle is you need to pay attention to your data. Because a lot of, investor and their building owner, they pay a lot of attention on their revenue, but while the profit is revenue minus cost. So you need to know whether your cost is reasonable, what your cost in the industry level. So the first thing is you need to really to think about how many data you can get every day. Not only energy, also water, also maybe about waste, something else. And we provide a database in worldwide to help you to understand what level you are at. And I want to also mention that currently there are a lot of new technology to help you to operate better than before, like a building management system. And, but those systems need well-trained people. So for the investor, when they really want to install new technology in their buildings, it is not just install equipment. They also need to ask the contractor to provide enough training for their technician to let them know how to operate those high technology systems, because this training can help them to run the equipment very well, and that can really help them to save money. Also, I'm working for a non-profit organization, but I have to say, you are for profit. Not for profit. Yeah. So if you are really run a hotel, you are a consultant, you need to understand.
Yes.
You need to create more, value.
Yes. Building management system, Vicky, what is that? Where do I find it in the hotel?
In your basement plant rooms?
Okay.
Might be next to your guard, the security person.
What is it though? What is it? Give us a picture of what that looks like, and if you could describe it, what would that be?
Well, it'll be a normal room with lots of computer, but
Not the CCTV room. That's a different room.
But each computer will have the comprehensive system connecting to all your lighting system, your air conditioning system, and the security, the fire system, everything.
Scary. Scary, because that's really kind of like the brain of the hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
And many of us as operators, hotel operators, never go down there. We never see it. And for future GMs, I think it's important to know. Jillian, Brown has shared about this idea about cost, and as has Vicky, right? This idea of cost and what it is to use sustainability also to justify increased profit margins at the end of the day. Have you taken cost into consideration when you've created this new initiative for the Sofitel brand?
Absolutely. It was top of mind for everybody. And not only is it a one-time cost for putting the whole new dispenser system in, but also ongoing operating cost. And so we partnered very closely with our procurement team and our supplier to make sure that there was savings. It's not just that we were able to not spend more, to make sure that we actually had savings at the end of the day, because otherwise our owners would never agree to it. They would never sort of partner with us to help us change behaviors of guests, of housekeeping staff, of owners. It is a big mental hurdle, and it is a big mafan to kind of change the whole system. So the cost savings was very compelling. For Sofitel, it was something like half the operating cost of putting in those small dispensers. And we're not even talking about labor costs. I mean, our housekeeping staff was so happy because instead of going in every day, they only had to do 2 or 3 weeks to change the big dispenser. So there was an incredible, compelling cost story to go alongside the big sustainability story. And I think that's the only way it'll work going forward.
Can you talk to me about the interaction with suppliers? How did they buy into this, or what was your compelling story to your supplier to invest with you side by side?
I think it was, they saw the trend, obviously the consumer trend. A lot of big names, big hotel groups were going this way. A big, I guess, urgency for us in China was also the government. I think a lot of people remember in 2019, in Shanghai at least, we were given 6 weeks to clear out all your 6 items, right? Yeah. And we were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? You know, how do we tell the guests, etc., etc. So that was kind of the way we do things here. And so for us, it's like, okay, let's not get caught off guard again. Let's not just meet the standard, let's excel the standard. And we kind of know this is not only good for us, it's also good for the government, for the owners, and everything else. Let's take the effort. So we found a great partner to help us do it with. And it wasn't easy. There was a lot of like coordination with corporate office, with our suppliers in Shenzhen, a lot of testing. And I'm not an engineer, but I had to learn about biodegradable solutions. I had to learn about locks, tamper-proof. So it's a lot of learning on everybody's part. And I think it's just having a positive mindset and knowing that in the end, this is what is good for the business, good for the owners, good for the planet, of course, and good for our hotel teams.
We talk a lot about cost profits, but I would add on to actually sustainability has lots of other values as well. For example, the guest experience, the social responsibility, the branding image, and especially for the post-COVID situation, health and safety. When people facing this type of social sort of health damage, the risk,
the crisis.
Yeah, the crisis. I'm sorry, I'm looking for the word how to describe this. But yeah. So if the hotel can somehow demonstrate this a good safety, reliable space for people, then I believe people will choose that hotel. So that's also part of the elements for sustainability.
And just later today, as we wrap up the day, we're going to take a tour of the JLL office, and you can see how they're bringing already these sustainable design solutions to their day-to-day operation. Something for us to be inspired by, to perhaps reconsider our own offices and hotels. But I'd like to ask each of you, before we open up for Q&A, what would you say is really the most important thing to get operations teams more aware and engaged in the sustainability initiatives?
Yeah, that's exactly the value JLL or our team is trying to bring to the whole design and construction period at the moment. We, as you might know, JLL has a very strong experience in building operation, the corporate operation. So which we have lots of knowledge, experience, and we try to bring those things into the early design stage.
Okay, I would say that we may need to have a holistic view of sustainability. Because when we talk about sustainability, people usually focus on environment protection. But if we really pay attention to see the SDG, you will see healthy and education and the community also is the goal. So actually, I do believe sustainability is about human. So how to make people live better and how to make our environment more sustainable for our living is more important. So for the operation team, sometimes you need to use the simple story to tell them. For example, when we talk about energy saving, a lot of people will think, oh, you always mention you need to invest a lot of money, high efficiency equipment, but they neglect their benefit. When you do a good job for your building envelope, I mean for the windows, for the walls, sometimes you can have a benefit in the winter because when you sit in the center of this room, you will feel warm because you open AC. If the envelope is not good, when you just sit close to the window, you will feel cold. But if you have a better building envelope, actually you can how to say, to sit anywhere in this room and can feel very comfortable. So that simple story, I think, can help the operation teams to understand what they are doing. Because
for the guests, right?
For the guest. Because when you talk about so many, how to say, principles, visions, but they cannot relate it to their guest, to their work. So this is our duty of UGBC. We try to create a more valid story for the industry, to let more stakeholders from different levels can understand how important sustainability is.
Ms. Jillian, how do we bring it down to operations?
For us, we work very closely with our GMs. And how we really, I personally think it's our GMs that build the culture at every single hotel. So it's for us to work with the GMs to do the little things, changing internally our brand culture, of thinking in a different way, of thinking of less waste, less plastic. What are the different things that we can do even back of house as artists? We call ourselves artists, on how we change our way of life to be a little more sustainable, a little less waste producing, and then it naturally then emanates into everything we do. So for example, in Sanya we have a GM who's very sustainability or environment minded. He no more plastic in the back of house, it's glass bottles as much as possible, reusable glasses, reusable mugs, and then he takes, it's by the beach, so he takes his team's beach plugging, I guess it's an Australian term, kind of picking up trash off the beach, and it's just the little things that help to change our young minds to think about the environment, not just consuming, but also helping your community around you. So for me, I think it's with the operations, working with our GMs, helping them to spread that among their teams.
Thank you. I'd like to take some time to open up for questions. And please, if you have a question, we just ask that you come here to the front. Siming is here, she'll help you. Just to ask a question to our speakers about anything you have in mind about this topic.
My question actually is to our core. You talk about plastic-free. I'm kind of curious from a perspective as a large company. What is your strategy? What are you doing this year? What are you doing next year? What is 5 years? how do you do 10 years? Because obviously there must be a plan
Yeah.
as part of the plastic free. So I'm curious to hear about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't think it's, for us, it's all gas-facing plastic. So by 2022, all gas-facing plastic, and we've got a number of items, about 10 or 15 items on our list that we've got to do, or at least we have an internal commitment to do. So we've done plastic straws. So ideally, you shouldn't be seeing any plastic straws in any alcohol hotel. That was done last year. This year, for Greater China at least, it's our single-use amenities. And then we're working with our hotels to kind of gradually roll out, so we knock each one of those 10 to 15 items off that list. Some are easier than others, some require more creative solutions, but that's for us a commitment that we're sort of marching towards.
Those 15 items are all guest-facing, or that's just the items that you've identified? Meaning, there's a lot of plastic in front of the hotel, there's the packaging, there's the amenities get wrapped in things, there's plastic laundry bags, or these are just 15 items that you guys have identified first?
So 15 items or categories of items. Laundry bags is one of them. Straws, as I mentioned, the single-use amenities, the combs. So it's guest-facing items. There are a lot of things, I guess, that's non-guest-facing that still have plastic, which I guess we need to work on, but that requires a lot more vendor and sort of industry cooperation. But for us, let's work with what we have and what we can control and sort of be very concrete about it.
Please welcome. This is our educator. He is taking notes to take back to school. Round of applause for our educator.
I'm just curious. When I was working at Four Seasons, Four Seasons made a move of moving the purchasing of furniture, fixture, and equipment into owner relationships. And I guess owner relationships is something special in China as well. How do you convince owners to use glass if it is cheaper in plastic?
To be very honest, I haven't gotten there yet. To be using sort of glass in all the rooms, you mean?
No, you talked about that the gentleman in Sanya is doing very well.
I
Owners
see.
obviously are always on the pocket, right? So if you can have it in plastic rather than glass, how are you able to convince the owners spending his money using glass rather than plastic, which is far cheaper?
Yeah. So I think when I told that story, it was more of his back of house, everything that he could sort of control for his artists and his environment. We do. It's a luxury hotel, so they do have a view of making sure it's a more luxurious experience. It's what the guests want. So they are moving towards glass in the guest-facing departments as well. But the example I gave was more he and his own staff had switched to use reusable instead of plastic bottles.
I think we're going to talk in our second topic about some of the solutions that are available for water specifically, because this is a big topic for hotels and the disposable water bottles. And also the process. We talk a lot about logistic, right? Like when you're thinking about the design of the building, how do you take into consideration about the logistic of moving all that stuff and do you know what I mean? From a consultant standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Just add on to the plastic glass discussion. Actually, we will also use the concept of life cycle assessment. So when we talk about material use, building design, building use, it's actually not only for the short period when you do the design construction. As you might know, one building, it will last there for at least 50 years. Normally, building will be designed for either 50 years or 100 years. That's why when we choose the envelope, when we choose your mechanical system, we need to think about your life cycle. So it might not do the math or pay it back within 3 years, but if you put in a long term, if the building owner owns and operates a building for more than 20 years, then I guess he will do his math in the other way. That's also the trend or something we will suggest the owner to take into consideration as well.
Yeah.
It's not like the high developed period when building owner is just thinking about when I do the design, sell the building, and then we make the profit out of that. Not only the government, the whole market is requiring building owner to own and operate your assets for longer period. That's why all those life cycle concept will work.
Interesting. Any other questions from our audience?
The great engineers, a question. I'm from Accor and I work for Pullman. I just want to have a question that normally when a building is being built, and as you said, it's in work, and usually I come from operations. What suggestions do you give to our engineers, like when a building is built up, like there are many terms and conditions you need to be keeping in mind, and what are the suggestions, the main suggestion which you give to our engineers to keep the maintenance or to keep the key points? I would like to know about it.
As the first step, there will be a TNC and transition period. That's how the construction teams, engineer, will give the on-site operation team a comprehensive training of each piece of the.
But that's for a new build, right?
Yes, exactly.
What about for an existing building, like the Pullman, right? They're
So,
an older building.
That one, unfortunately, you probably need to engage some third-party consultants.
Like Brown. Brown could help with that. Or Jill.
Yes, exactly, because that's a huge challenge for the whole hotel industry, because hotel business runs 24 hours, while the normal commercial office or retail buildings, they only operate 10 hours a day. So they have more time or manpower to do the checkup, to get the building, the whole facility, really sort of a sleep time. But your assets will be running really without any rest. That's why our suggestion would be you need to engage some third-party consultant to do the regular, maybe it's half a year or annual checkup. Because for a third-party perspective, he or she might not be that familiar with all the facilities, but they will have the benchmark of the whole industry to help you realize some of the problems, which for the on-site mechanicians or engineers, they probably just be too busy to finish their daily work. That's why the third-party consultant will be really helpful for those checkups.
Yeah, I just want to add something. Just like you do a health inspection for your buildings, because every day you operate your hotel and you feel everything is okay, but you do not know what level are you in the industry. So just like we have bought a car, we know we need to wash in the car, but also we know we need to do the maintenance for the car's engine and the other system. But for hotel, for the ordinary operation work is focused on the cleaning and then something else, but maybe you do not pay a lot of attention on your efficiency. So when you invest so much money and then you use energy, how much output are you created? And is the cost is relevant to the industry baseline? So that is the value of third party.
I have a question, Brown, for you and for Jillian. How much do your standards, when you're doing an inspection, match the hotel operating standards? Like, every hotel, every brand has like a list of criteria that to be a so-and-so brand, you need to have this, 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 this. Are you working with brands to make sure that there's some alignment for that? I don't know, is that something that's already being done?
How to say, we do not sign a contract with hotel brand, but actually there are over 2,000 hotels participating in LEED in the world, and there are 200 hotels participating in China.
Yes.
Yeah, and among them, about 70 hotels have already get LEED certification, like Shanghai W Hotel, and also like Jinmao. So those hotels, they have to do a lot of effort to make their operation more efficiently. So we do see the transformation in Chinese market. Because maybe several years ago, only the high-end hotel or maybe some, how to say, they just want to use sustainability as their brand, they will do LEED.
Marketing
Yeah.
interests.
But now more and more hotel owners realize that they run the hotel by themselves. So they also care about the other issues. Actually, the biggest stakeholder of LEED, in hotel industry is Singarita, because they hold they buy land for themselves and they build hotels by themselves. They operate by themselves. So in the end, they realize, I need to take care of my buildings. So there are over 10 Singarita hotels get LEED certification in China.
One question.
Please,
What is
please.
the most sophisticated LEED hotel in China?
The question was, what is the most sophisticated Leeds hotel in China?
That's a very sensitive question.
Maybe not profit, right?
No, but they sign NDAs, I'm sure, as well. So maybe you can give us some examples of what you consider to be state-of-the-art, cutting-edge technology that that would help a property to become a very high-level LEED property.
How to say? I would say that it depends on you how to want to rent a hotel in the end. So I will tell a story about one hotel in Hainan. I don't
Are you
mention
allowed
the name.
to? No.
Anonymous. Because when they want to aim to become a high-end hotel, they want to resolve the problems when they operate. So they really pay attention for the progress between the design phase and the construct phase and the handover. Because a lot of designers, they have good insight or good idea for their hotel, while the people may not to understand how to use it, or also maybe the contractor cannot implement the equipment very correctly. So they invite a third-party consultant, and during maybe 3 months, they find the 2,000 errors during the construction phase. And then they fix it, because right now they realize that it is not okay just to let the contractor to finish their job by themselves. You need to have third party or maybe others to inspect the whole process. So this is what I think is very important.
So is there an aspirational hotel in China?
Is there an aspirational hotel? But Vicky has given us an example of a building in Australia, and this is it's not a hotel,
No,
right?
it's an office. It's a headquarter office building.
So we're waiting for that hotel, Robert. Maybe your students will be the ones who bring that hotel
Because
to
we're in
life.
China, and I think this is interesting in this context of being in China. Obviously taking the lead in a country
Yes,
which is at the moment mostly safe from COVID. So I think I'm curious if you tell students, okay, so what is an expiring building? What could you study? What could you research to say, okay, hey, this is like cutting edge. This is like wow.
Well, I think, Brown, you have a list of buildings on the website
Yes.
that maybe we can share with our guests as well. There are a list of buildings that have been certified already by LEED. This is free information available. Yes.
We have an open database to show all the projects participating in LEED. If they do not choose confidential, you can see all their data. So for their project name, address, and their certified level and points. Because why do I want to answer this question is, I can only answer the question under LEED criteria, because they just apply the LEED. So we have our rating system for energy, from transportation, from environmental quality. But when you talk about inspirational or maybe the best, you have a lot of other aspects. So as a green building rating system, we cannot define which one is the best. We just can tell you maybe they did very well under LEED criteria.
And please review the list online. Do we have any other questions? Please, our hotel operators, we want to hear about it. We have one in the back as well. I will bring to you, but you won't be on camera.
No, as Brown said, when we talk about high-end hotel, as a guest perspective view, what are the key points you will keep in your mind when you go to a hotel? Like key points in your mind, which will be there in your mind, like, as you said, high-end hotels. When we talk about high-end, means high-class, luxury. So what are the key points which will be there as a guest point of view when you go to a hotel?
Are you able to answer that? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can answer that.
This would mean a guest. What do you want to do for the
Yeah, do you, because I think Brown's certification is more about the building performance. But then maybe that question is for our friend Jillian. You are operating a luxury brand, right, of which Pullman is one of them. And what do you consider to be important for your guests to experience from a sustainable perspective?
I think the very obvious things during the guest journey, it's plastic free, and in all our restaurants we encourage no food waste.
Oh, hang on. Plastic free. I don't get really excited about a paper straw. that for me is not. No, I know it's important, but I mean that's not a selling point, right? And when you talk about really connecting the customer with sustainability, what would you say maybe would be the ideal situation for a brand as you continue to develop this initiative? What would be your aspirational experience?
I think it's all those obvious things. Even though I know the straws are a small one, the amenities in your rooms are small ones, but they are a signal because it's not so common. It is a signal for a guest to say, okay, they've made a commitment, they're changing whatever they put in front of the guest as a reminder. The next is also, I think, in the way we conduct ourselves as artists, especially if you're in a resort setting. Are you helping our guests and their families be more aware of their community, their environment, and part of nature, and teaching them about the environment and nature around them, and how to, I guess sustainability for us is also about educating them about what's around them, the flora and fauna. So that's the other thing. And the third, it's just, I think, guests don't quite know about the building envelope. Well, I love that word, and the technical aspects. But I think they can feel it if you have a great building. There are no drafts, and it's well sealed, and it's a very comfortable environment. I think that's also something that signals your commitment to a sustainable future.
Hi, this question is about from JLL, like more consulting point of view. Because at the market, we found it's really difficult to convince owners from very different backgrounds about sustainability. Because a lot of time, sustainability means they have to put into extra expenses in develop project to acquire all those licenses. And how can we best in the industry to advocate on this idea of being sustainable for either the community and also from a very strong business sense? So I just want to hear from all of your views. Thank you.
This is our JLL hotel expert here.
Actually, I thought we come to this conversation already. We mentioned that there's definitely cost benefits. Maybe that'd be difficult for the owners when they think about the additional cost for the sustainability, so-called sustainability items or design features. But then there's a social responsibility for them. There's a branding market requirements for them, which can hardly put any cost for those items. And also, I believe the customer experience, the comfort, the health, and well-being is long valuable assets to all the building owners. That's why if they only think about really short-term investment, they're talking about 3-5 years period, then probably it doesn't work out or make any sense to them being any sustainable design or put any additional invest on that. But I do see the whole changing in the industry. Now, even the major developers, the government require them to own or operate their own assets for longer years. Therefore, it will make more commercial sense for them to put some additional cost up front. Therefore, they will be able to reduce their energy bills, water bills, and increase their indoor environment to attract more guests.
Okay, I was saying there were 3 points for your questions. First is the policy. So I do believe right now we need to have more confidence for Chinese building code, because actually the MOHUD, the Ministry of Construction in China, they have already released their own green building standard, which is aimed to help the whole building industry become more sustainable. And the new standard, which was released in 2019, is really a quite high-level standard. And I don't believe that is lower than the requirement in the other countries. And the second, I think, is the market. As Vicky mentioned, that a lot of the elements influence the developer or the investor to take the action. So there are already some companies that are in the leading position in the whole industry, like Swire Property, today's properties owner. They have already commitment 2030 SDG goals, and they also have already achieved the first net zero building in Chengdu. It's Chengdu Taikuli. Everybody knows this Wanghong building, and it's really a high quality building, but it's also a zero carbon emission. And that gives them more advantage in their capital market. Swire has already released green bond in the market and gain a lower interest than other competitors. So obviously that is the competition in the market to influence more people to be aware of the value of sustainability. And the third is the technology. So when we talk about the 2060 carbon neutral, I would say there's no technology barrier for this goal. The only thing we lack of is our vision, is how we want to do it. Indeed, you just talk about the goal, or you really want to take action. The technology has already existed, and I think that the second panel will talk about a lot of new technology for their operation in hospitality. So I think for this, from these 3 points, sustainability has become more popular than before, and people can accept this concept.
Yeah, I think I kind of take it from a bit of a smaller perspective, maybe. There are so many owners, right, with so many different perspectives, and I think it's finding the right owner to have a success case with. And I'm thinking of one owner in my mind for one of us who's very much more, this person is kind of older generation, but they have young kids who've been abroad and come back, and they get influenced, and they're trying to bring their kids into the business. And they get influenced by, the kids are asking them, oh, are you doing this, or are you doing that? How come you have, you know, these kinds of machines in there? Do you know, and they're getting educated. And so when you find an owner like that who's open and has other influences around them that push this sustainability agenda alongside you, then it's like grab onto that and kind of make a success case out of it, and slowly, hopefully, the wheels will keep turning and you get more momentum about the cause. Yeah.
Well, you touched on something, Jillian, because we haven't talked anything about the consumer driving the change.
Yes.
I mean, all of us sitting in this room are guests of hotels, we're employees of hotels, and we play a role in expecting our employers and the people that we give business to uphold to these sustainable standards. That we cannot forget that. A lot of what we are going to talk about in our second panel as well is the innovation that's happening because consumers are driving the innovation, and we see that opportunity. But you guys have given us a very, very interesting insight. Please stay for the tour after so that you can see what a platinum office looks like from a sustainable perspective, and to get to know more from these 3 amazing leaders who are sharing their knowledge with all of us today. I hope you are all inspired, as I have been. Thank you.
Thank you.